Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be part of our community, head on over to missionmatters.com/community to apply. All right, so today's a special episode. I have on the line Justin Legier. He is the CEO over at Cybeats. Justin, welcome to the show.
And thank you so much for having me.
All right, Justin. So we got a whole lot to talk about today. So excited to learn more about Cybeats and really how you're helping large organizations. And we're also going to get into these SBOM studio benefits, exactly what that means, how organizations are benefiting, and what they should know. So happy to get in all of that. But before we do, you already know the drill, as do all of my longtime listeners. We're going to start this episode the way that we start them all, with what we like to call our Mission Matters Minute. So Justin, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. Justin, what mission matters to you?
I love this question. It really aligns with my values here. My mission, it's always been rooted in protection and preservation of what matters most. I started my journey with the armed forces, where I spent almost 15 years. I transitioned from there into medical services and even took a leading role in supporting our national elections here in Canada. And these are very, let's say, values-based kinds of work. I really try to find that alignment with what I believe and what I do. And I'm now getting a chance to do that in the cybersecurity realm. So I apply these same principles with the understanding that in our digital age, safeguarding information is tantamount to preserving trust and privacy, and in some ways the very foundations of our modern society. So I feel very grateful that I have the opportunity to live those values and to keep on with my mission through my work with Cybeats.
It's great. What originally drew you to cybersecurity? Like, what was the original fascination?
I think, security, physical security. We have the Army, Navy, and the Air Force to protect us in land, sea, and air. We do have organizations that help protect us in the cyber domain. But the interesting thing about the cyber battle space is that there are no borders. It's everywhere, but it's nowhere. So every human being, all of the time, with almost no exception, is affected, because software underlines almost every aspect of our lives in our society today. So I find that very compelling, and I think there's a lot of opportunity to make a real impact there. So that is very attractive to me.
Maybe let's go a little bit further and tell us a little bit more about Cybeats and maybe with the company overall and what you do.
Yeah, so Cybeats is a relatively young company. It was started in 2016. Its focus was on IoT, or Internet of Things, security. And within the last couple of years, Cybeats has pivoted toward providing solutions related to software transparency, software supply chain, software supply chain intelligence. There's a few different ways that you could frame it. It's still an emerging area of cybersecurity, but in essence, in the spring of 2022, we launched a new product called SBOM Studio, and I'd like to tell you what an SBOM is, just to give folks some context for what we're talking about. And then I can give you a little more broad context of the business. But that's our focus today. So just talking about SBOM, a software bill of materials. You've got bill of materials in manufacturing, that lay out exactly what all the components are that go into your widget. Software is very similar. So it's really a list of ingredients of what's in your software. One thing that folks may not understand or realize is that software today, it's compiled using a bunch of open source components and libraries. So they go and they pull the functionality that they need from something that already exists,
Mhm.
and they include that in their build of the software. And they often don't know what's in the code itself.
Hmm.
So there could be vulnerabilities or malicious code or any number of things that are really opaque to the developer who's
Mhm.
making the software. So all an SBOM really is, it's a standard that was jointly developed by government and industry to say, okay, this is how we want to identify all of those components that
Hmm.
are in software. But what do you do with all of this data? How do you actually leverage that to providing a more secure
Mhm.
operating environment, to providing real transparency into what's in the software? Because
Yeah.
in some cases, an SBOM could be thousands of pages long. That's not human readable, right? We need
Mhm.
another layer of a solution to help us to actually get value out of that. And
Mhm.
that's what our focus is. So that's where Cybeats is laser focused on getting value out of this new standard that has emerged. And we're gaining traction
Yeah.
with our customers. Certainly, they're finding a lot of value in this, particularly as
Mhm.
we've seen more attacks
Mm.
on the software supply chain. And I've got some great examples I can share with you if you're
Yeah.
interested. But suffice it to say that the attack surface of
Mhm.
our cyber domain continues to grow. And part of what is so compelling to me about what we're doing is
Mm.
we're not just riding a wave, we're helping create the wave and to have
Mm.
a new way to actually combat these security
Mm.
issues. So that's a long answer, but
So sticking with the problem just a little bit longer here, you mentioned that when they're pulling these different components in order of software, that there may be other code or malicious code that's in there. Maybe stick with that a little bit longer and tell me a little bit more about what that looks like, because if I'm understanding it correctly, what happens then is, on the other side of things, they have something that they really weren't expecting, and they don't know until maybe there's an attack or it's too late, and then they reverse engineer and say, oh, that's where it came from. Am I off on that? Or maybe just clarify a little bit more for
no, you're pretty on the mark there. I'll give you a couple examples,
me. Hmm.
and they're similar but
Yeah.
distinctly different. One would be you can Google this. Excuse me, SolarWinds. This was a deliberate attack to put malicious code into a piece of software,
Hmm.
and once that was identified, folks were able to folks were compelled then to say, okay, where is this? Do I have this software? Am I affected
Yeah.
by it? How do we fix it? And that opened up companies that use that software. Another example, which this
Hmm.
one's more passive but no less damaging,
Hmm.
was Log4j. And I believe it was late 2021, December 2021, this vulnerability was identified.
Hmm.
Basically, Log4j is just a bit of code, is component in much software. Like, it's prolific. This is
Hmm.
why it was so damaging, is it was everywhere. Um, and essentially, what happened was they discovered a vulnerability where malicious actors could come in and execute their own code, uh, which that opens the door to any
Yeah.
number of things. We're trying to protect data, we're trying to protect abuse,
Mm.
and you're pretty vulnerable at that point. So we had many companies,
Mm.
most enterprises out there, asking the question, what's in my software? Where do I have
Right.
Log4j? Like, when you've got people in the C-suite asking what Log4j is, like this,
Mhm.
kind of it's a bit
Yeah.
of esoteric knowledge of what the components of software are. But when you've got C-suite people asking a question like that, you want to be able to answer it. And
Yeah.
companies spent months trying to identify where this was in their stack, and
Mm.
it spent millions of dollars trying to address that, just to be able
Mm.
to answer the question. Now, had they adopted SBOM into their practice, had they had a solution like SBOM Studio,
Mm.
they they would have reduced their cost measurably. Some
Yeah.
of our customers estimate that around 80% cost reduction in remediating
Mm.
vulnerabilities like Log4j.
And so I know you're working with a lot of enterprise clients with the solution, and when we think about the whole IoT movement or the Internet of Things, and when we think about more devices and other things that are going online, right? Everything being connected, and I mean, it could be anything from a TV, right, that they put in their lobby to something else, and accessibility to Wi-Fi, other things like that. Like, can you talk a little bit about maybe the implications of IoT, this movement? And then because when I think of SBOM Studio, when I think of these large companies that you're providing the solution to, and when you think about like the amount of a footprint they have of bringing things into this world of IoT, like it's enormous. Can you maybe talk about like the functionality of like how IoT plays a role into all of this? Because I see it and it's complicated. It's a web, but can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, certainly. I think, I envision a future not where the individual consumer could answer the question of what's in my software. We have got food labels. I can't remember a time there wasn't a label on the food that told you what was in it and all the nutrition facts and all of that. We're not old enough. But I think the time will come when certainly the people that develop our software have full transparency into what's in it and can easily address those dependencies and licensing issues and vulnerabilities and all the things that SBOM can help address. But the problem is, as you stated, it is pervasive. It's everywhere. Software underlies everything that we're doing. I think Warren Buffett has on a few occasions mentioned that cyber attacks are the greatest threat to mankind, just with how important it is to our economy and way of life, and everything that we do is run by software. So in some cases there's a bit of security through obscurity because it's just so much. But with the Log4j example, these large companies, they have a real problem here, and it affects all of us. And a few good examples of industries that are really engaged and early adopters with SBOM are medical device manufacturers, industrial control systems, financial services. These folks are deeply concerned about this, not just because they're now getting regulatory pressure from the government, which they have, but also because of the business benefits and the benefits to their clients in terms of greater security. We think that information and transparency, and to put it in a military term here, intelligence, is really the first step to remediating these issues, and that's what we're trying to provide. So, as I mentioned before, SBOMs in themselves create a bit of a problem in that this is a massive amount of data.
Yeah.
So the bigger the organization, the more SBOMs being created and consumed, and they've got 9 different ways to generate SBOMs, but they're much more limited in how to consume and manage that data, especially when it's coming from different sources. So we're engaging large enterprises in high-risk industries that have a massive SBOM problem, if you will, for us to solve. We've got a SaaS solution. It's highly scalable by nature, easily deployed, very reliable. And this is a point of pride for Cybeats, is that even though we're a relatively young company with a relatively new product, we've been able to walk in to deal with Fortune 500 companies, meet their very stringent requirements, win in complex competitive bid processes, and beyond that, actually deliver. So we're actually delivering for these customers and providing them the results that we set out to promise, that we promise and set out to achieve.
Tell me a little bit about the information sharing side of things, and like how you're pulling this off, because it's a great story, but like, how are you pulling this off?
Yeah, it's definitely been a strategic imperative for us to invest heavily in our technology, our development team, and building an innovation type of culture within the technical team. We could probably get beat up on not spending enough on sales and marketing for sure, but we've invested heavily in our technology and in our operational delivery.
Mm.
So this has been our focus. We want to do what we say we're going to do, and we want to deliver for our customers. So it's really is a matter of prioritization, I think, and intent, and that's how we've delivered on that, is just by making it a priority and then going after it.
Mm. Mm. Tell me a little bit about Isaac. Like, how does this play into the scenario?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So information sharing and analysis centers, I think, is what that acronym stands for, and basically these are industry bodies that exist to help at the industry level address cybersecurity questions and concerns. So we're keenly interested in working with the various Isaacs. There's
Mhm.
finance and health, for example. And in fact, I'm not sure if we've quite announced this yet, but we have inked a deal with the Health Isaac to provide their members with some SBOM Studio and to help them address their needs around SBOM, because
Mm.
actually just this month, the FDA has put in, and it's the Food and Drug Administration in the United States, has put in place a requirement to submit a software bill of materials for any new devices that they
Mm.
submit for approval. So, as I mentioned, there's a
Man, that's
regulatory
gonna be
push
good for
here.
business for Cybeats, right? You're
Yeah,
like, thank you.
I think so. I think it's going to be huge. I think it's going to be really great. They've got 700 members,
Wow.
and and they're where the value is we've got a
Mm.
streamlined process for onboarding and to help them to really address that industry specific
Of
need.
course.
So we're very excited about that one. The Health Isaac is very excited about that one as well, because they're able to now provide a huge benefit to their membership
Mm.
by kind of addressing this SBOM problem that
Mm.
maybe a year ago they was on the periphery and they didn't really pay much attention to it. But in the
Mhm.
spring, the FDA said, no, this fall you got to start to deliver. So it's going to be a process in terms of what this really means and how this is going to transform over time. But that's the other great thing I think about Cybeats and our team and our
Mm.
culture, is that we're very agile. Let's say
Mhm.
we're here to learn. We're here to grow. We pay very close attention to our customers' needs. We
Mm.
spend a lot of time participating in industry level discussions around the evolution of SBOM and what that's going to mean for everybody.
Mm.
So we're keeping our finger on the pulse and being reactive. But like I said, we're not just riding the wave; we're helping to make the wave. And we have some vision as well around where this is
Mm.
going. Um, I thinking back to the personal computer, for example, not many people can imagine, like, why would I want this giant machine in my house? Like,
Yeah.
imagine, but then you've got like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs in their garages. There's just a different idea, a completely different vision about where this future is going. And I can't imagine a future where we don't have more transparency in terms of what's in our software. I think
Mm.
it's going to someday seem crazy that people really didn't have that clear of a picture and really
Yeah.
no way to manage all of that information. And I mean, that's why Cybeats is doing what
Mm.
it's doing, right? Is we've got this shared belief in what the future holds around software transparency.
Yeah. No, I love it, and I'll go back to the example you gave earlier, which is on the back of food. Like, I don't, as you brought that up, I was thinking, and I'm like, yeah, I don't remember a time when I don't, like, you look at the back of a food package and you don't know what's in that food. So you making that comparison and saying maybe it'll be X amount of years out, whatever, maybe in my lifetime, maybe not, I don't know, but when same thing for software. like, there has to be an SBOM. Like, wow, what you used to do it without that? How did you know? Like, what is there? Like, I can already hear somebody's voice saying like, that's crazy. How would you do that? Like, that's so silly. Like, almost to that a point at some point. Because if you asked me that about food, I'd be like, wait a minute, you look at the back and there's no way to know what's in this and you're going to eat it. It's like, yeah, right. So on your end, you're like, wait a minute,
exactly.
You're going to use this software and you don't actually like know, like, really? I see it. The same thing. I wouldn't eat food. I'd be like, what? I'm not eating that.
Exactly. I'm sure that at some point there was lead or arsenic or something crazy in people's food, and that drove adoption of food labeling. Like, there's a reason, right? And we've got lots of examples of issues in the software supply chain that really make this seem, to me, inevitable. And that's part of what I think makes Cybeats, because Cybeats is a publicly traded company. We're on the Canadian Securities Exchange and the OTC markets in the US, and I think that this is inevitable. So really, it's a matter of time. It's a matter of patience around this growing market, and how Cybeats will fit into that. It's up to us, I think, to take advantage of the situation. But the trajectory overall, I think, is really positive, and that in a lot of ways, the sky's the limit. We're in an early adopter phase right now of this SBOM wave. The government's primed the pump for SBOM adoption, but there is real value in this beyond just regulatory compliance, that will help commercial traction. As we continue to see this mandate be pushed, we're going to get more adoption. We're going to get more heat and light on SBOMs, and it's not going to be some esoteric acronym that I have to explain every time I talk to somebody, but it'll be, oh yeah, okay, that thing, obviously, I know all about that now. But the really cool thing about it is, because it is rooted in information and information sharing, I expect there's going to be a really interesting network effect that starts to happen with our customers and their vendors and their customers, as we start to share this information. And they're going to want to do it in a very secure way. They're going to want to do it in a structured way. This is where our solution can actually benefit from that. Is we can be the go-to for SBOM management, and I think we've been pretty lucky. We have a bit of a first mover advantage. We really keyed in early that in the value chain of SBOM, it's not the generation where the value really is. Like, that's a commoditized thing. It's pretty easy to achieve. Well, not that easy, but relatively easy. And we're focused on the management, because that's where you get the juice. That's where you get the real value out of it, is answering the question, okay, I know I've got a list of what's in my software. Now what? So what? I think answering that question, so what, is where the real value is. And that's where we're focused. So I think it's a very exciting industry to be in. I think we've got the tiger by the tail a little bit as a business. And we've got the energy and the vision, I think, to see this through for years to come. So it's pretty exciting to be a part of.
So you mentioned, of course, you're publicly traded on the I think you said Toronto Exchange, Cybeats.
Canadian Securities Exchange. Yep.
There you go. Cybeats. So are you also? I mean, you're tackling a huge industry. Are you also raising capital, or is there any other, like? Tell me a little bit more about the plan and the vision for growing this thing and also serving the increasing need that's only going to continue.
So we're definitely, cyber's expensive. That I think is pretty well established. Cyber resources, these are folks that, you can't just walk into it. It takes years to really be able to wrap your head around things properly. And there's a cost to that. We've we've been pretty lucky with the team we have and the dedication and drive there and their commitment to the vision. But we it takes money to make money.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're always planning ahead. We're not cash flow positive yet. That's that's reflected in our books, but that's to be expected, I think, for a company of our maturity level. Though we have a plan to get there in the not too distant future. So we're likely going to need to do a raise here in the next little bit. But I think that's to be expected for a company like ours. So very positive overall. We've got lots of investor interest, and I think people are starting to see that, okay, this is a real thing. When you're able to point to contracts with Fortune 500 companies and 7-figure deals and all of that, it really, okay, this is real. This isn't going anywhere. So or this isn't going to drop off, I should say.
Yeah.
So it's always a struggle. New companies are hard. Tech companies are hard. Like none of this is easy. And there's a lot of days where you're thinking, okay, this isn't that fun. But I think when you can fall back on the fact that you believe in the mission, when you can fall back on the fact that your customers really love what you've been able to make, and they see the value in that, when you get continuous validation from where the industry is going and where even government is behind it, that okay, we gotta fight, we gotta live to fight another day. And we're gonna get there. So that definitely helps with the hard days. So we've got lots of we've got lots of support in terms of the environment. Our operating environment is very permissive based on what we're doing. So yeah.
It's great. Well, Justin, I just have to say, I'm excited about this. Like Cybeats, what you're doing. I'm excited to bring all this information and content to our audience. I like being on the cutting edge of some things, and it's hard to be on the cutting edge of cybersecurity. But I feel like this whole SBOM thing and the whole what's happening, the FDA and all these things. I'm like, yeah, I know we're bringing new content to some people that will be listening to this, and I know we're adding a ton of value, and that's because of your story and what you're doing. So I thank you for that. That being said, if somebody's watching this or listening to this and they want to continue to follow the Cybeats journey, whether it's to to inquire more about the company specifically or follow the stock or just in general, how do people connect?
Yeah, a couple of ways. We try to be pretty proactive and transparent with the press releases. So you can look for us, or you can look for us on the OTC and CSE exchanges under the ticker CYBT. You can also go to our website, which is Cybeats.com. We've got an investor relations page that we keep up to date and can keep people engaged. And we do newsletters, and we try to communicate as much as we can. Obviously, with cybersecurity, our clients don't always want us to, trumpet that they're working with us. Just for security reasons and because they're big companies, and that's just how they do it. But there's lots of information out there about Cybeats and what we're up to, and I expect that I would expect an increase in information flow over the next couple of months with Cybeats. We've got lots in the pipe and lots we want to share. So look for the press releases under CYBT.
That's super exciting. And I know you got all kinds of news that you probably want to tell me, but can't, but it's okay. I'm not going to push. It's all right. I know. And for the audience, everybody watching this and listening in, we'll put all those hyperlinks in the show notes so that you can just click on the links and head right on over. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters or engaging in an episode, we're all about bringing on business owners, entrepreneurs, executives, and enterprises and having them share their mission, the reason behind their mission, like how are they out there making a difference in the marketplace. If that's the type of content that sounds interesting or fun or exciting to you, we welcome you. Hit that subscribe button. We have many more mission-based individuals coming up on the line, and we don't want you to miss a thing. And Justin, again, really appreciate you coming on the show. Again, thank you so much for coming on and telling us all about Cybeats and educating us on SBOMs.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.